Take a look at futures this morning. Right now, the Dow has actually escalated in selling. We now see the Dow lower by 117 points, so 18 points. We'll see where this goes. S&P and NASDAQ still pointing higher. Tech remains front and center for investors. Broadcom shares skyrocketing after the chipmaker reported better than expected third quarter earnings. The company is securing $10 billion in orders from a new AI customer. Its CEO says that AI growth expected to continue into next year. Joining me now, making money host Charles Payne. Charles, your reaction to that?
No, I think it's phenomenal. Been long the stock for a long time. It's the silent $1 trillion stock, right? Because we hear about all the other names. This is a name really that's not even a household name, and yet I think it's the 7th largest market cap, and they just keep keep producing. Now, the OpenAI deal is huge, and you can see rotation out of these names, or a little bit of rotation. Right now, as we start today, the S&P is off 1% from the high, all-time high. The Max 7 is 2% off the all-time high. So the good news there is it's obvious that this market now is starting to find other areas to invest in, and not just beyond tech, but even within the tech sector.
Yeah, no, we just had the Interior Secretary, Doug Burgum, on in the last hour talking about, the energy space, with he and Chris Ryder heading to Europe, exporting LNG. So you look at energy, you look at AI infrastructure. What'd you make of all the technology CEOs at the White House last night having dinner with the president?
It was a great scene. It was a great, no, really, in the sense that, listen, the prior administration went to war with them. There's always talk of breaking them up, always punitive action. In this war, in this AI war that might determine the preeminent nation for the next 50 years, maybe we should be working with them. Maybe we should have a more cordial relationship with them and understand them. Ironically, in the last year or so, many, particularly Silicon Valley, who ultra liberals, have come to say, okay, I want to, this is an administration wants to work with us, and it's a positive all around.
Yeah, no, I mean, to see Mark Zuckerberg and Tim Cook, $600 billion investment from Apple into the United States. That's pretty incredible.
Although the funniest thing I saw someone ask, why was Shamat there? I was like, I don't know. But anyway.
I know. Well, I have to say, I made the joke this morning on Fox and Friends First that, it looked like a cabinet meeting, except it was all the technology executives, the way that it was laid out.
The most powerful CEOs, whoever, outside of maybe Rockefeller,
Exactly, yeah, wow. Well, let's take a look at yields right now. We've got the jobs report coming, got to talk about it. So right now, the 10-year's at 4.147%, so it's down a basis point. Of course, the August jobs report coming out less than 15 minutes from now. Expectations, 75,000 jobs created, the unemployment rate ticking higher to 4.3%. Also, investors still expect a rate cut at the September 17th meeting. The futures market has priced in a near certain 98% chance of a 25 basis point cut. Charles, my question to you, what if we got a bad jobs report? Could you see the futures market pricing in a half a point cut for September?
We could. We want it. It's ironic, as now you bring up, is bad good or good bad? That debate we always have whenever it comes to Fed accommodation. We don't want anything that's devastatingly bad because, the Fed cutting rates is good for the market except when there's a recession. That's when it's not good for the market. So any number under 75,000 probably will confirm not just this rate cut, but probably additional rate cuts, maybe a rate cutting cycle. The bond yields, phenomenal. Watch that 2-year yield. That breaks under 3.5. That's generally Fed fund rates follows the 2-year. So the 2-year is breaking down big time. That means we can have a series of rate cuts. I can't wait for the jobs report because the JOLT, the JOLTS numbers were really kind of confusing. So we had massive job openings in construction, like 3 million from 2.4 million, but also massive quits, and a decline in quits, right? So people in that industry weren't quitting for these better or more jobs out there. Same thing happened with wholesale. The same thing happened with transportation and warehousing. So massive openings, but still, folks who work in those areas are not quitting, which is a sign that certainly the pendulum has swung to employer from employee.
Yeah, no, and by the way, speaking of the rate cuts, Christopher Waller, last week he had said, I worry conditions in the labor market could deteriorate further and quite rapidly. So we're going to be watching to see what happens in about 12 minutes from now. Do want to ask you about Stephen Moran, though, because President Trump's Fed nominee, Stephen Moran, did testify before Senate banking yesterday. He's defending his nomination to the board, stresses he will uphold the central bank's independence while taking an unpaid leave from his White House role if confirmed. DOJ launching a criminal probe into fired Fed Governor Lisa Cook over alleged mortgage fraud. And the Journal is reporting that subpoenas have already been sent out. A grand jury in Atlanta weighing the case. She's suing, of course, to block President Trump from firing her.
Yeah. Well, I love Moran. You know, his work prior to even Trump coming into office is phenomenal. People should go read some of his pieces. He won't take a lot of credit for it. You know, I interviewed him early on, and, you know, he's pretty humble about it. But listen, what he said yesterday that stuck with me the most was how the Fed impacts households, small businesses, starting families, having kids. These are things that you don't hear about, right? We always say the Fed and the stock market, right? And listen, the Fed was designed to help business. That was all. That's its creation, to help the wealthy out there. But we know it has an impact on regular people. Just every day, someone walking out of the train station right now, and the Fed never acknowledges that. And I love that Marin's going to bring that to the Federal Reserve.
Yeah, I thought the line of questioning about him, you know, staying with his job, but just taking like that leave of absence. And they really, I thought, went overboard on that. He made it very clear. He said, no, I mean, I'm not, we're talking 4 months.
Right. I mean,
why
listen,
would I walk away from my career? I'm happy to serve and help out.
Yelling went from the Fed to the Biden White House. What's the name? How come I have a mental block on him? Lyle Brainerd or whatever.
Oh, Brainerd.
Yeah, she did. She made a lateral move. That kind of thing is, it's just obvious. He's not going to be doing that job. He's going to be focused squarely on the Federal Reserve. I think obviously what they wanted to hear was the Fed independence part that he said that the Fed, he'll adhere to the traditions of the Fed and independence.
John was saying earlier he's not really concerned about that.
Not at all. I think if the Fed does something stupid, okay, the market will let the Fed know about that very quickly, and they'll be forced to change course. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. And that's the Powell Fed is a little different, right? Yeah. I mean, and Powell has become somewhat stubborn, and I think that's hurt him a lot, and it's hurt his reputation. So, but now we're looking forward to the new Fed, the 2026 Fed. We're going to have a new chair. It's early next year. We may have 2 more slots here, so we'll see what happens. But
we'll see. At least the Lisa Cook.
I like the idea of the Federal Reserve focusing on Main Street. Because that's really where the pain is right now with their inconsistency with the rates.
Yeah, and maybe being too late, as President Trump has said about Jay Powell. All right, Charles Payne, stay right there. We've got the jobs panel coming up. The August jobs report is out in about 9 minutes. All hands on deck. Our panel is here to break it all down. You're watching Mornings with Maria, live on Fox Business.